Story 1. 2. 6K. R. Malicious Compliance. Posted by U. Kinetic Photography. 15 hours ago. My son goes on a jolly during school hours. Sock. My son 14, M, goes to a school who don't tolerate lateness. He is always pushing the boundaries each day as he likes extra snooze time in bed. A few weeks back, he just about made it into school on time even though it's a 5-minute bike ride. A teacher told him he didn't have his tie on and to go home and get it. Cue his malicious compliance. He returned back to school an hour later with a grin on his face and praise from the teacher for getting his tie. What they didn't realize is that he left his bike at school. He took a leisurely stroll home taking in the sights. He ate a bowl of cereal when he got home. Put his tie on. Then, he went in the opposite to a McDonald's to get a double sausage and egg McMuffin as he was still peckish and eventually took a leisurely stroll back, tears of joy. A 10-minute return trip took him an hour. The school was happy that he returned wearing his tie, oblivious to how close he lived. They even said in his yearly school report that he is always well dressed. He now occasionally forgets his tie on purpose so he can be sent home to skip a boring class, to get some food or have a little cheeky nap. He just needs to be back within an hour and knows he will be praised for being compliant with school rules. He owned up to this recently, but how can I be even slightly angry at him for playing the system? Tears of joy, thumbs up. Absolute legend. 206 comments. Award. Share. Save. 131 people here. If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 2. $1. 5K. R. Malicious Compliance. Posted by U. WOWOKAE. 13 hours ago. I might be getting my manager fired, in debt over this one. MOC. PR. Payroll. INS. Insurance. CPA. Certified Public Accountant. I, F19, have been working for a business for close to 2 years. Making close to nothing even though I am our diesel fleet manager. I do payroll, mapping, electrical, piping company. Generally putting in 40+ hours a week of dedicated hard work. Recently it has gotten too much. I would be able to handle the horrible pay and bad insurance. But my PR head is awful, F62. She is very religious, Christian, has told me for 2 years my beliefs are wrong. Fighting with me no matter how many times I ask her to keep it out of the workplace. She has yelled at me previously multiple times. Going as far as saying, and I quote, "I just know you're not going to the good place after death." Insinuating I'm going to burn in hell. Mind you, all I have done at this point is have different beliefs than her. Now she has asked me to stay off PR for job security, greatly cutting my hours and taking away half my workload. So I did just that. I will not touch it no matter how much she is complaining. She now is struggling to get it all done in a timely manner. Having to work until 8 p.m. and even messed up 2 checks last week. It's obvious she is struggling with my help. Fast forward to roughly 3 weeks ago. She is charging everyone extra insurance for the work they missed in 2022. Our work pays half ins. If you miss a whole week, at the end of the year you pay $$ back for whatever work covered. She asked me to check and see if people missed work that she didn't charge. I compiled to what she asked of me. So, I noticed she is doing it to everyone but herself. So I took it into my own hands to see how much work she missed and if she owes money. Big surprise. She owes quite a large sum due to her 3 different 1 to 2 week vacations in 1 year. I know she won't charge herself for it. So, I ratted to the boss. Our CPA is currently adding it up for her. 20+ years of work and likely no payback. She also has already been caught stealing about 10 years ago. She put tens of thousands on company card that was in my aunt's name. My aunt quit and gave her the company card to dispose of. Instead, she used it for 5 years on personal use. Closing parenthesis. She always told me to watch out for stealing employees. Edit. She just asked me for help on PR because it's too much for her. It's our last day to get it in. Told her, no, and walked out. Couldn't help but smile on my way back to my office. 253 comments. Award. Share. Save. 179 people here. If you are enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 3. $523. Malicious Compliance. Posted by you_Don'tseem. 10 hours ago. No overtime without management approval. Great. Lock. This one dates back a while to 2017, but have been wanting to share it ever since. So apologies if it's a bit long. Background. I was in my 3rd year of an accounting job I absolutely hated. But I also hated the industry as a whole, and was essentially using the position to bide my time as I learned a new skill to eventually jump to an entirely new career. My boss at the time, who I'll call Tia, was the shining example of the specific flavor of toxicity that I'd found sinking its teeth into most of the accounting departments I've worked in. Imagine the power trip of middle management plus the prestige of managing multi-million-dollar transactions. She was the first accountant for the company when it started and had become the de facto choice for new highest position in the department every time the company's growth called for a departmental restructuring. The only thing I could determine was earning her these positions was her confidence and conviction in the way she'd determined things needed to be done. Which C-suite just ate right up. Even paying for her to get whatever training, certification she needed to qualify for the new roles presented to her. In the meantime, she'd given me 3 consecutive annual reviews scoring a solid 0% satisfaction rate each time. Which was always enough to justify a 0% raise, but never enough to justify actually letting me go and putting me out of my misery. So at this point I was fully checked out. Especially after finding out I'd become the lowest paid employee out of approximately 100, including interns and the front desk clerk. In the latest restructuring, Tia was not promoted to the new CFO role as the board wanted real experience, but was given a controller role while a new level of management was added between us. HR had also become its own department, no longer falling under accounting's purview. Tia didn't seem to like simultaneously becoming second in accounting's command, while also losing control of our. She convinced the company to send her to law school so she could eventually transition into some kind of Frankenstein-esque accounting, legal, HR position that would oversee essentially everything the company did outside of actual production. This required her to leave the office around 2 to 3 p.m. every afternoon to attend classes, making her unreachable until the evenings. The new management position that opened between us saw 3 to 4 employees join and leave for greener pastures over the course of a year and a half. But the story takes place while I was under the only manager I actually liked, who I'll call Kevin. I could see him doing what he could to advocate for me, while still being forced by Tia to treat me the way she had previously treated me. And I could tell it made him feel awkward handing these decisions down my way. I respected his attempts to work with us, and he actually helped us create a functional, efficient department for a few glorious but short-lived months. Story. Suddenly, a bill was passed in the U.S. stating that salaried employees making less than $40,000 per year would be eligible for overtime pay, taking effect later in the year. After 3 years of no raises, I was sitting at around $37,500 per year, making me eligible for the eventual overtime. Working in accounting, it's pretty much expected that you'll be working 50 to 60 hours a week, especially when closing out the monthly, quarterly, annual financials. However, After being shafted for so long and still being stuck with shit work that had little effect on the actual financials, I was actively giving him as close to 40 hours a week as possible, only staying behind if we'd gotten an important request towards the end of the day that Kevin begged me to take care of before leaving. I knew it would look a bit off if I suddenly started working a bunch of overtime after this change took place. So I planned on very slowly ramping up my hours over the preceding months to eventually take advantage of the extra pay. After 1 to 2 months, I was regularly putting in 45 to 55 hours a week, with most extra hours spent remoting into my home computer to practice programming, and looking forward to the income this new workflow would provide me. I guess they eventually caught on, as Kevin pulled me into a conference room and presented me with a contract to sign stating that I wasn't to work any overtime without Tia's approval, for reasons you'll see below. I quickly recognized this as a way to never have to work an extra hour for the rest of my tenure at the company. I signed it and immediately cut out all overtime, leaving at 4 p.m. that day as I'd worked through lunch. The next day I stopped showing up early, started taking actual lunches, and could be heard peeling out of the lot at 5:01 every day. Kevin noticed my sudden lack of hours and tried to mention the contract not being in effect until the bill kicked in. I reminded him that we had a signed contract that failed to list a start or end date, so I considered it fully in effect. I could see the oh shit realization hit, but he begrudgingly accepted the loss. I'll mention again that he was great, and this action had obviously come from Tia, and he was now stuck dealing with the repercussions the same as I was. So he really didn't fight me too hard on it. Later that week, an important client request came in around 4:45. He asked if I could stay behind to work on it, and I asked if he had Tia's approval. This was his second oh shit moment, as unfortunately, due to her classes, Tia had become unreachable between 2 to 8 p.m. every weekday for the foreseeable future, and he didn't usually know he'd need extra work from me until after 4. Everything went exactly to plan as I got to enjoy a comfortable 40-hour week, throwing the contract back at them anytime they tried to squeeze even an extra minute out of my time. Now for the real kicker. Before the new bill took effect, a judge blocked it and shut it down entirely, meaning no more overtime pay for salaried employees. A crippling loss for the workforce, but I at least still got to enjoy my new schedule. Management tried to claw back my hours, but hey, I still have a contract that says I can't. Sorry guys. I was finally pulled into Tia's office, who tried to explain the lack of necessity for the overtime approval now that the overtime bill would be coming into play. I again reminded her we had a signed contract with no dates and no mention of this being in relation to impending overtime law. Then came my favorite part of the conversation. So, yes, this is still a valid contract, but I want to be clear that it doesn't override your original employment contract here with us. You mean the employment contract that states 40 hours a week? And that was that. I was eventually let go a few months later after applying because I don't when the CFO mentioned people saying I look like I don't care about my job. But I'd finally built up my skills enough to find a position in my new industry while still enjoying my severance. So I consider it a win. 4 years later, I'm doing work I enjoy from home, hanging out with my dogs with a calmer mind and a fatter wallet, all while they're still stressing over someone else's money. 18 comments. Award. Share. Save. 89 people here. If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 4. $684. Malicious Compliance. Posted by ancient_educator_76. 11 hours ago. 2. Why don't you tell somebody who gives a shit, bro? Then. Lock. This happened back in the day with a teacher I used to work with who taught a class of adult students who took a very high-stakes exam. This high-stakes exam, unless you passed this you couldn't qualify for scholarships, some aspects of financial aid, etc., was multiple choice. And I was part of the campus proctoring team. This particular teacher didn't like me very much. And I was fine with that. We had different personalities. And that's okay. This was an important test. This exam is an important piece of data that the Harricoma County Community College System, fictitious name, uses to compare its success to sister schools across the county. And even across the state. It's not an AACT or SAT. But it's the junior college version of a GRE. Basically. It just happens to be administered in this particular course, which is required by all who attend that major in pretty much anything. Anyway, sorry that this detail was added late. I'm writing this as I'm remembering the details. I copied and pasted this from the bottom to this paragraph that it's in. So sorry if it seems choppy. So anyway, during the actual test it was my job to make sure the classroom was fully functional. Math helps were covered up, etc. This included covering up the 4 quadrants that were labeled in the 4 corners. The teacher, well call Captain Cheat, was okay with most of my suggested, demanded, changes. Before the kids took the test I made sure we covered up the 4 quadrants. But Captain Cheat was determined to have the 4 letters in the 4 corners up still. They were literally framed posters with fancy decorated letters A, B, C, and D. I was like, ... I don't see how this could help. But Suyo. Anyway, the students started walking in, looking at the sparse walls. Seemed panicked for a second. Then relieved to see that there was still letters up. This was my first clue of weirdness. But should have really been my second. During the test, I saw the teacher walking around the room, looking at kids' answers. I noticed a very interesting pattern that, if you didn't pay attention, you would miss. No words were spoken. He would walk past a student. The student would look up at the teacher. The teacher would look away into the middle distance. The student would look at the same middle distance. Then bubble in an answer. It was a little weird, but a very consistent pattern. I then paid a little closer attention, and saw that some students were better at hiding what the teacher was doing than others. Some kids didn't look where the teacher looked. They just knew what to bubble somehow. Then, it happened. ... A student took their pencil, pointed at a bubbled-in letter, looked at the teacher. ... The teacher looked at me. ... I looked away. ... And saw the teacher look intently at his picture at the corner of the room that said D. The kid then clearly changed their answer to D. Even mouthing D. Kind of whispering it to themselves even. Wow. When testing was over, and every student handed in their Scantron and left, I immediately approached the teacher, saying, "I can't believe you. Impressive but disappointing. You're literally cheating these students out of an education. You either have them retake this without your magic signs, or I go to the board." He responds, "Why don't you tell somebody who gives a shit?" Exclamation mark. Hashtag good luck proving it. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. The first part of Captain Cheetah's comment set me off. And at that point, honestly, I wasn't probably going to go ham on this guy. This is 100% due to the additional cockfied cringe factor of saying hashtag. Maybe I'm just jealous because I am supposed to be cocky plus cringe and H is killing my vibe. But either way. I will. I will tell somebody who gives a shot. The provost. The provost. Indeed. Gave a shit. A community college aside and. This is a community college, which some people see as lesser than. But I see community college as truly superior for the first 2 years of college courses. The requirements to teach are having a master's plus 5 years experience in the field they are teaching. And at the university you'd be in a class of 500 and never really hear from the actual professor. It's cheaper and higher quality education. Pretty much across the board. It's a no-brainer. So those community college haters out there. Whatever. Aside over and. So anyway, I tell the provost. And Captain Cheat is not just brought before the board, but is put on administrative leave instantly. Like instantly. He wasn't sent away in handcuffs or anything. The stakes weren't that high. But this was an exam that affected a lot of people's money. And in turn lives. This guy looked particularly pissed. More so than usual. And I know for a fact that he hasn't worked at the university level since, based on his LinkedIn that says H is working at a Jarget warehouse. 38 comments. Award. Share. Save. 100 people here. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on.